I want to do a video on gun control, and to start off, I'm not someone who owns guns. I'm not morally opposed to guns. I see them as a tool, but personally I don't own guns, and I probably won't own guns, so I'm not a gun nut, as it were. However, I don't see gun laws as being particularly useful, and well, I mean, they're actually awful and antisocial, and they are the source of lots of gun violence. And the reason for that is it's impossible to shut down a market. You can get drugs into prison. That, to me, is the perfect expression of how impossible it is to shut down a market. And so if there's demand for guns in a society, and if people want them, they're going to find a way to smuggle them in and get them, maybe 3D print them in our modern world. If you make laws against guns, all you do is prevent law-abiding citizens from owning guns. People who follow laws will say, okay, I can't own guns, I won't own guns, and if anything, they're more vulnerable. But criminals, by their very nature, don't care about breaking laws. They're criminals, and so they don't care about gun laws, and they're just gonna get guns no matter what if they want them. And when they live in a society with gun laws, they know that all the people around them are disarmed. Any law-abiding citizen they see on the street is much more vulnerable. And so if you're a criminal and you're opportunistic, you're going to be much more likely to commit violence with guns if there are gun laws in that place. And we see this all across the world in terms of statistics. The most violent places in America are the places with the strictest gun laws. And this is true of many other places as well. You can find counterexamples like Britain, who have very strong gun laws and pretty low gun violence rates. But I mean, the reasons for these counterexamples are things like Britain loves knife violence or bludgeoning. You gotta think of gun laws as a switch. Sure, there are obviously downsides of having guns around. People will always say, if you're gonna kill your wife or whatever, and there's a gun lying there, you're more likely to shoot them or something like that. But the biggest reason to be against gun control laws is that it's not like you can we don't have a perfect solution. If you flip the switch this way towards having guns around and no gun laws, then yes, maybe toddlers are going to kill their siblings, or domestic violence will end up with gun violence being part of it. But you can't just have your cake and eat it too. If you have gun laws, then you have all of this excessive violence being created by opportunistic criminals who have a disarmed public to prey upon. And that is seen across the board in statistics. You can obviously find examples to the contrary, but you have to cherry pick weird examples here and there when there's this huge trend in the opposite direction of just blood and violence. And so the biggest point that has to be made is that it's way more important to be against gun violence than it is to be against guns. Guns, yeah, I mean, whatever. Honestly, I've fired guns before and it's pretty awesome, so I'm not going to hate on guns or people who love guns, but I do think we should pursue a more peaceful culture and not glorify violence as a solution to problems in the way that we often do. And yeah, I think probably the solution is to pursue a more healthy society, use less SSRI drugs that make people paranoid and messed up, and use less violence on our children when raising them, things like that have huge correlations with all the negative effects of spanking has been well documented. But there's many solutions that can go towards reducing violence, but yeah, removing guns is not one of them, unfortunately. Even if we put on waiting periods and things like very mild restrictions on guns, even things like that, if it's inconvenient to the point where people can't really get them, if they're criminals, they're just going to get them elsewhere. That's the bottom line. So these laws, yeah, like so many laws, they do the exact opposite of what they're intended to do. Peace.